We went back in time, because now we're going to start reading Candy. Hi everyone, Jen here, aka LaureledEevees. It is about 8:25 in the morning on Tuesday, April 30th, and we're going to start the Candy route. I'm going to try to get half of the chapters done today. I was able to do 27 chapters with meat yesterday, so we can definitely do 20 today. Thankfully, Candy has less chapters, and from what I've heard, might be a little bit more upbeat than the meat route. Guess we'll find out. Also, I hear that Gamzee is a big part of this. I've already saw that already, thanks to memes, which is why I had to stop following those Homestuck meme pages on my, I guess my Facebook account. So, oh, thank goodness I don't have a Tumblr. Anyway, moving on. And this is so exciting. Go. Candy, Epilogue 1. Candy was definitely the right choice, John thinks, as he munches thoughtfully on a strawberry swirl mint. It cracks to splinters between his teeth, incredibly tasty splinters, the consistency of which have absolutely no existential baggage to them. Whew! Okay, I'm gonna try, because I read meat route, this might taint it, the Candy route, a little bit, but I'm gonna do my best to keep my mouth closed on stuff that goes on there, just in case Candy people either don't want to read the meat route or haven't fully gotten through the meat route. And meat is so hard to get through, oh my gosh. Tea, anyway. The splinters dissolve quickly, leaving behind the impression they were made of nothing at all, but for a cloying essence determined to linger behind. With some distance from his traumatic anime dreaming, the fatalistic mood that he's been walking around with all day seems somewhat melodramatic, embarrassing even. Who has time for nihilism when it's such a beautiful day? You know what? Maybe I'll stay after all. Really? Yeah, now that I've had some time to think about it, is Lord English really that big of a deal? I mean, I know Rose said it was a big deal, that canon would dissipate if I didn't go do it, whatever that means. Isn't it just as likely that I could mess up a whole bunch of stuff if I go back there? The idea of going back in time or into canon or whatever, and fighting this huge battle that serves some vague purpose I'm not even sure I understand, it feels so heavy. And I'm not feeling that heavy suddenly. I feel kind of the opposite, actually. I feel like maybe I just don't give a crap. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just, well, I'm already here, living my life with my friends, and I think I just want to stay back on Earth. Forget I ever heard of Lord English and just relax. Is that selfish of me? I don't know, it just seems like a lot of responsibility for one person. So maybe instead of taking the fate of everyone's existence into my own hands, I should just stay here and try to enjoy life. Now, even John has to admit his rationale doesn't sound particularly satisfying. Now that he's reflecting on everything he just said, it really strikes him as a bunch of empty-headed babble. Then again, it's like he was saying, his head does feel lighter. Maybe he doesn't care if his reasoning sucks. Maybe he just doesn't care about any of the high stakes or the existential gravity related to his conversation with Rose. Maybe he doesn't care about much of anything except here and now, the company of his friends and the pleasant breeze flowing through the park today. He's feeling quite insubstantial when he thinks about it. Superficial, and a bit sappy towards his friends. So what if he wants to make an insubstantial, superficial, and sappy decision? And tea. It's Lady Grey. Literally. Are you absolutely sure about this, John? He looks up at the trees, at the sunlight glittering through the crisscrossing fronds. Has the sky always been that blue? A leaf spirals down lazily and lands on his forehead. He plucks it off and studies the veins running through it. At each fork in the veins, he supposes the leaf as a whole is making a certain kind of decision to go this way or that. It certainly seems like one way of looking at a leaf, now that he bothers to really scrutinize one. It also seems to him, with just as great a sense of clarity, that not one of this leaf's decisions ever mattered even the tiniest bit to anybody. Not to the tree, not to the world, not even to the leaf itself. He flicks the delicate green metaphor away with a flourish of disdain and suddenly conviction. Yeah, actually, I don't think I've ever been so sure of anything in my life. Roxy's stoic countenance washes away abruptly and she lets out a happy squeal. No, that's kind of sexist way to describe it. It's definitely a girly noise, though, and not what John's expecting. Oh my gosh, John, that's amazing. I'm so stoked. She buries her nose into the crook of his neck and starts crying. She's definitely sniffling a little, and his skin feels wet against hers. John makes incidental eye contact with Calliope when he raises his arms to wrap them around Roxy's back. He's startled for a moment, but Callie's just looking at him with that big, serene smile on her skull. So, okay, this isn't weird or anything. This is super intimate physical interaction he's having with her maybe girlfriend right in front of her. It's just that Roxy's been so distant for years, and now John has no idea where the boundaries are drawn. He grins and hugs her back, just as hard as she's hugging him. Maybe his friendships aren't as damaged as he worried. Maybe it's like his friends were his actual family this whole time, and they were just waiting for him to pick up the phone or to come along and hug them. Roxy pulls back and claps excitedly. This is going to be so effing awesome! Yes, I think that you have made an excellent choice, John. I can already feel the aura of equivocation that's been hanging over us all these years fading. Equivocation? Oh, sorry. What I mean is that I think we've all had a hard time moving on from what we experienced on our old universes. Now we finally can put that ugliness behind us. Oh, John, this is amazing. I have such big plans for you. Plans? Stop asking so many questions, dummy. It's gonna be great. It will be more than great, but first there is one thing you must do with your retcon powers. Someone that you need to help. Someone that only you can help. What? I already read the thing at the bottom. Oh, jeez. Calliope leans in close. The angle of the sun makes it so that she dips into the shadow. The sharp recesses of her skeletal face turn those shadows black. For a moment, her voice sounds the way wind does when it howls through a narrow chasm. You must free the bard from his prison. Did he hear her right? He can't imagine she could possibly mean Gamzee. Calliope puts her hands together and pulls back, smiling sweetly. Her voice is sugar-sweet again. Calliope. Oh, why, Calliope? Let poor Gamzee out of the fridge, John. The time has come. Get him unfridge-stuck, John. He already had an episode, and it was it had a mixed reception at best. As I know Jen was trying to make a horror movie reference, but goodness gracious, she should have had more help. Instead of just doing a one-person job. Poor Gamzee? He's surely learned his lesson by now. If we are to turn over a new page in this story, we should turn that page for everyone. Gamzee must begin seeking redemption immediately. He has suffered enough. Has he, though? Oh, yes, absolutely. Are you sure? Of course. Jeez. Roxy, let's see. John glances at Roxy, seeking support. She smiles at him benignly, apparently having no opinion whatsoever on this topic. Sure, okay. He can't help but make a disgusted face at the thought of it, but he shrugs. Why the hell not? He feels lighter, remember? If it's the time to let go of his long-held worries and hang-ups, then so too must it may be the time to let loose a long-suffering clown. If this is to be the age of redemption, let it begin, he decides, not with a bang, but with a honk. Honk! Okay. Chapter 2. John zaps back into the quietest point in the fridge's impressively storied timelight that he could pinpoint, which is the land of tombs in Krypton, T-minus about a half hour before his final battle against every dude they all had to fight to get the hell out of Dodge. As the name of the land would imply, the planet's surface is covered in tombs, and each an ancient skyscraper piercing the brilliant gaseous thunderclouds above. But there's only one tomb he's come for, a simple household refrigerator just like the one he grew up with. He pops into cannon at one end of the rooftop so high that the chemical storm coursing through the atmosphere sets his hair on edge. At the other end of the roof are Dirk and Dave, doing something he never thought he'd see. They're hugging. Not just regular non-committal hugging, they're emphatically hugging the crap out of each other. Dave's face is buried in Dirk's side, and Dirk's got both arms around him the way that looks like he's never actually hugged another human being before. Sensing that this is probably something he shouldn't be seeing, he tiptoes towards Gamzee, would-be sarcophagus as carefully and quietly as he can, and places his hands just above the thick aluminum hull. The moment John's palms hit the fridge, Dirk turns to look at him. His head only moves an inch. Slowly he lowers one eyebrow and returns to his poignant, deeply personal business with Dave as if he hasn't observed anything worth acknowledging at all. Ooh, okay. Which John supposes is for the best? He isn't trying to mess up the timeline any more than he needs to. He's only here to steal a refrigerator that has recently been used to entomb a clown. And he has enough on his plate with this idiotic heist as it is. Anyway, he decides to mind his own dang business and gets his fridge back to Earthsea. He zaps himself and the fridge back to the same picnic grounds he departed from, while cleverly leaving the chains wrapping the fridge behind on low tack. Tea again. I'm back. Everyone get ready for this guy, I guess. With the same delicacy that he used to touch a toilet bowl in a public bathroom, he grabs the handle of the fridge and pulls. Gamzee pops out immediately, sweating, gasping for breath, and smelling like socks that have worn continuously for 2 weeks straight. John rears back and pinches his nose shut. Calliope shoots John a sharp look like a stern teacher would. Calliope doesn't have a nose. Gosh, John, don't be so ableist. Anyway. Honk! Choking. Honk, cough. Oh, poor thing. It's all right now. You're all right. Take a moment to catch your breath, Mr. Clown. You'll be just fine. Honk. Honk, honk, honk. Oh dear. What is it, sir? Tell us what pains you. Let it all out, friend. We're here for you. I've been a jerk, naughty mother trucker. Calliope nods knowingly and pats him on the back. I up and done some mother truckers wrong. Those mother truckers most of all who I called as my friends. I put the straight up harshness on them, and it wasn't a nice thing of me. Not one bit, and now I'm all in an emotional place from sweating my hard time in the hunger trunk, a fate of which I surely got my deserve on for, and it gave me all the time to rethink my lot and get considering to what a right pile of the nastiest garbage I've been my whole life, and I got my epiphany going in here and there, like all mother truckin' bathed in the righteous epiphanies, yo. Pretty much balls out immersed in the emotion breakthroughs, my good ninjas, and I came to getting some of my realizations downright locked tighter than I was in that fridge, and all those realizations being something all mother truckin' trusty of sorts. I'm I'm a bad man, and I'm here to redeem my mother truckin' self. Honk! Man, Gamzee's voice is gonna be hard to take seriously. Okay. Calliope, eyes closed, continues with her sympathetic gestures. She pats him on the back, nods very slowly, issues a every now and then. Only when he is distracted by his own sobs does she steal a glance at her phone, tipping the fact that she too wouldn't mind if his redemptive soliloquy would hurry itself along. Whew! These redempted Eureka thunderclaps all banging in my think pan, getting me to go like, boo, I'm bad. What I'm saying about is the raw truth. I did some explanations to make you see the truth. The truth that my gnarliness had tentful of root causes you gotta indulge me at. Listen up, boys and girls, 'cause here comes a bunch of noise that's morally mitigating as heck. Honk. Oh, jeez. Shh. I've been, abused and stuff, homies. As a child, I got neglected by a stern old fatherly goat. I was a disappointment on him, and I can't say I blame him for abandoning the heck out of his useless kid. I would have done the same. if I was a big cruel goat. So that explains, pretty sure most of my crimes in a way that makes a mother trucker want to take his forgiveness out for a spin. There's other reasons to consider, stuff that makes this redemption arc tight, like an uncracked elixir. Like how my purple blood meant I got the culture pressures put on me to be a salty jester for life. What about that hand the messiahs dealt me? What about that hand the messiahs dealt me, huh? A mother trucker's gonna envy that like a wicked cod rash. So how can I full and truly get blamed on for when it comes to a little bit of subjugulation I got culturally hornswoggled up to doing, and also tragically goat abused, which needs to make you shed a tear for this mother trucker, lest you want to be as atrocious as me, hallelujah. And Gamzee's voice hurts so much more than Dirk's. Oh gosh. And I don't trust you one bit. Don't throw me this sob story. You were still responsible for everything you did, Gamzee. Okay. As such is why I'm grabbing hold of my repentance as firm and serious as I would. Oh gosh. My redemption arc is truly the dankness. I mean it hard, and I'm going sincere at it like one sad and sorry bad boy mother trucker. From this day forward, I plan to get my pledge on to be a changed clown. Truly as some new mother trucker thanks to my new friends. Bravo! Yeah! While John's two friends are busy hugging it out with arguably the worst person he's ever met in his life, he tiptoes a few yards away from the group and slips his phone out of his pocket. There's only one person in the universe who can truly understand what John's going through right now. Hey, Terezi, you around? What do you want? You wouldn't believe what's happening behind me right now. Probably would. No, you won't. Check it out. John discreetly holds its phone over his shoulder, takes a Snapchat of Gamzee sobbing into Calliope's arms. Roxy's beside him, nodding solemnly. Holy crap. I know, right? He's crying like a little wriggler. Go over and give him a kick in the codpiece for me. I can't. John, I'm asking you to do a simple favor for an old and dear friend. Do not be difficult. I don't think that would go over well. Everyone's taking this all weirdly seriously. Apparently we're gonna let him have a redemption arc. Yeah, it's like, well, what is there to even say? It's literally the dumbest idea I've ever heard, but what can you do? Shove him back in the fridge and throw him in the ocean is what? Pretty much. Why are you idiots even bothering with this fool again? Don't ask me. It's a Calliope thing. Oh, gah. I guess she roped Roxy into it, so now I'm just going along with it, too. Don't even care, actually. I mean, he smells awful, but, I guess that's what's happening now. The clown's back. Life goes on. Didn't need to, though. Not for him, at least. Speaking of life, how's it going out there? Oh, fine. Pretty boring, flying around and stuff. You know how it goes. The search continues. Any sign of her yet? You've been gone a really long time, you know. I'm sure you see it that way. From my point of view, it's a little different. Anyway, no turning back now. Yeah, I know. Everybody misses you, though. Whatever that is. What is this? Whoosh, 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 whoosh. I can't select it. It's just a thing that's right there. Okay, then. Probably even... Gamzee. Well, that settles it. I must never return. Sorry, Egbert. I never should have told you about his redemption arc. I blew it. Yep. Anyway, gotta go. Next time we speak, you owe me a report of exactly one punch in the clown codpiece. Bye, dork. She's smiling. He pockets his phone and heads to back to Gamzee's pity party. Gamzee's sobbing so performatively that many carapacious civilians have stopped to watch. By the looks on their faces, not a single one of them has ever been exposed to such clown grief. Pulled away from Calliope's embrace, he's now addressing the gathering crowd about the importance of genuine repentance. Calliope comes to stand with John, her hands folded behind her back, and her expression peaceful. Thank you for this, John. You're welcome. Something's different, but he can't put his finger on it. Whew. Yes, something feels very different. Dirk's hand begins to shake so violently that he drops his screwdriver into the chassis of his battle bot he's working on. It clangs around for a bit, landing somewhere that will absolutely be very inconvenient to retrieve. Doesn't matter. There's more time for rap battles or politics or wacky hijinks of an adventurous nature. There's no time left for anything. Oh, wow. Moisture beating at his temples, Dirk staggers away from his workbench and braces himself against the wall. His knees are weak, arms spaghetti, head spinning, palms so sweaty that the concrete feels smooth under them. He nearly drops his phone while attempting to dramatically auto-dial Jane's number through the haze of his trembling Pseudorific stupor. What? Hey Jane, bad news. Cancel everything. Excuse me? What? All plans. Cancel them. It's over. What's over, Dirk? I just told you everything because we're canceling it. Dirk, are you quite okay? Yeah, I'm cool. You sound terrible. It's unlike you to call quits on a caper like this without offering a lengthy diatribe on it. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, lengthy diatribes are over too. They're canceled. Jane gasps loudly without a hint of irony. I don't understand. Don't worry about it. Just do what I say. He hangs up on her and brings up his contacts so he can text Jake and cancel all their televised fights for the foreseeable forever. He then blocks Jake's number because it's not worth explaining to Jane. It's definitely not worth explaining to Jake. Then again, nothing is ever worth explaining to Jake. Jake's number is barely even worth storing in his phone, if Dirk is being perfectly honest. Through the workshop window, Dirk can see the sun touching the horizon. Ah, exquisite. He takes a moment to appreciate the sublime synthesis of the atmosphere and the existential crisis he's currently experiencing. The sun is setting both physically and metaphorically right now. Not bad, he thinks, then corrects himself, because while there is a time to delight in the volatility of causality, the whole situation is actually and for real astonishingly bad. All this time, I'm just feeling like, feels good. This feels like the right thing to do. Thank goodness I went candy route second at this point. At this point, this is what I'm feeling. Anyway, Rose's eyes flutter open to the sound of a heart monitor and the sight of a featureless white ceiling, fluorescent lights, diaphanous curtains, everything crisp and clean. A hospital? Wait, this doesn't seem right, she thinks. When she closed her eyes, she was dramatically lingering about her bedroom at home. She had taken a handful of pills to say goodbye to John. She shoots up in bed, tugging the IV tape to her elbow. Kanaya is sitting at her bedside, hemming a sundress. She thins her lip and gives Rose a half-lidded look. John, I see. Is there something I should know? This is the sort of joke that would have gone over better if it had not been made at this exact moment. With all the distance between them lately, Kanaya's jab lands like a rock, plunging into a stagnated pond. Instinctively, Rose raises her hand to her forehead, but there's no pain there. Her head is clear as it's been in months. Kanaya? What happened? Kanaya throws her sewing project aside and sweeps in close, wrapping a cool palm around Rose's arm. Her voice quakes but retains most of its porcelain decorum. I came home and found you passed out in front of the load gaper. Your skin was freezing and you were barely breathing. Oh. The doctor said that your heart rate dropped below 30 beats per minute, which, as I understand, is somewhat dire. I see. How are you feeling? Rose considers this for a very long time, her eyes fixed on the window at the other end of the room. The night is dying to a thin, pale curtain. She can barely see the moon. I feel... She looks back to Kanaya, eyes white and bright. Kanaya, I feel... fine. It's been a long time since she's felt anywhere in the same ballpark as fine, that it's most an out-of-body experience, to say the word. She feels giddy. No headaches? No headaches? No visions? Nothing at all. Wait, is John okay? Where is he? Did he leave? Leave? No, John's fine. He didn't go anywhere. Except, I suppose, to leave his house for once. Multiple days in a row, even. Rose shuts her eyes and takes a deep breath. For some reason, she's never felt so relieved in her life. She thinks about what she was about to send John off to do and her feeling of grim urgency surrounding the matter, and yet for the life of her she can't bring herself to care about whatever it was she felt so direly important about his decision. All that matters to her now is that he's safe, in good health, and spending time with those he cares about, and apparently, due to a perfectly inexplicable turn of events, so is she. The door of the room creaks open, and in slips a smiling Carpathian in blue scrubs. Rose listens to Kanaya ask fretful questions about her condition. The nurse responds by tapping her clipboard in a musical rhythm. Rose opens her eyes. She stares at the knob of her wrist and frowns. She's not sure why the sensation should be concerning. It's not like her memory is slipping away. She remembers the conversation she had with John this morning quite clearly, as she does the previous years of declining health and troubled obsessive thoughts about canon, dissipation, and other such abstractions. What's slipping away instead of is the feeling that any of it mattered at all. Was she insane to be so consumed by such lofty concerns, and she is only beginning to experience clarity today for the first time in ages? When the nurse leaves, Kanaya puts a hand over the wrist that she is so preoccupied with. Is something wrong? It just seems like all of this happened so quickly, even abruptly. Oh, I'm sorry. Would you prefer for your consciousness to continue to disintegrate? Don't be ridiculous, Kanaya. What I would prefer is to be here with you. Really here with you for the first time in a long time. Kanaya tips her face away from the light to hide it in the curve of her shoulder. Rose reaches out and takes her wife's hands to her own. They're colder than she remembers. Are you crying? Since when have I been known to cry? Quite often, actually, but usually because you're angry. Well, I'm not angry. It was hard on you, wasn't it? My illness, combined with all your duties to the mother grub, the pressures of changing political situation, with all that on your mind, it can't have been pleasant to have come home and take care of me as well. I can see now that it was all terribly unfair to you. It was nobody's fault, Rose, so please don't take any undue responsibility onto your shoulders. Since when have I been known to do such a thing? Kanaya's lips twitch into a smile, and she laughs sadly. Her laughter forces the tears out. They drip down her perfectly made-up face in thick trails. I really did think I had lost you. It's not that I thought you would die, it was that you felt so far away. What you were going through was something I could never possibly understand, no matter how patient I was or how deeply I loved you. There was a feeling I couldn't shake that something terrible was going to happen to us, something that neither of us could stop, a powerful outside force that would take you away from me, and I couldn't stop myself from thinking that maybe that would be for the best. Kanaya, I can see now that this is completely ridiculous. Kanaya laughs again, gaily this time, as if some dark, terrible weight has been lifted from her shoulders. She lets out a thin, shaky breath afterward. It's like the noise fills the room back up with oxygen. Rose hadn't realized that she had held her breath at all. Neither did I. Jeez. The shadow hanging over Kanaya's thoughts was hanging over hers as well, but now that she said it aloud, the darkness dissipates without materializing into its true shape. Rose uses the hem of her hospital gown to wipe the tears off Kanaya's face. It really is, honestly, Kanaya. I've never heard such a ridiculous thing in my life. You are talking to me as if I am a pupa again. I'm sorry. Do not apologize. It's been a very long time since you had the energy to use such a condescending tone of voice, and as you know, it's one of the things about you I find most adorable. I can't imagine how adorable I've been, drifting about the house like a sweaty, drugged-up ghost. While you know I feel about the careless imbibing of human intoxicants, you are still very adorable. Not to be trite, but there is nothing that could make you not beautiful to me. What a relief, considering that we're going to be young and magically fit literally forever. Kanaya presses a snotty, uncharacteristically imperfect kiss to the back of Rose's hands, right where she wears her wedding ring. If you would have me forever, who else? There's no one who understands me like you, Kanaya. No one who looks at me the way you do. No one who brings me back to earth with ceaseless, brutal honesty like you. I have no idea what I'd do without you. You would probably do just fine. Yes, but I'd be very unhappy. They smile at each other as the first rays of sunrise peek through the blinds. Oh, moving on. Meat Feels is coming to the surface. Did you hear that John left his house? Multiple days in a row, even. No way. That's incredible. I've never heard of such a thing. Someone leaving their house? Stop the presses. Carcat, Is it a slow news day in the consort kingdom or something? Jade finishes pruning a dead bulb off her arum lily plant and flicks it at Karkat's forehead. She then politely pulls the blinds shut because God forbid even a sliver of sunlight ever infect Dave and Karkat's hive. Jade doesn't live here technically, but there's domestic evidence of her all over the hive. Her plants, her base, her clothes slung over the couch where she sleeps for weeks at a time. I'm being serious, idiot. I was really worried about him. I'm being serious too. I was actually beginning to wonder if John had died. But what the heck were we supposed to do about it? It's not like he answers the phone. Well, if you care so much, then maybe don't respond with sarcasm when I tell you he's getting better. Guys, it's not a competition. We're all worried about John. Were we? When's the last time either of you tried to hang out with him? When's the last time either of us left the hive? Yeah, shut-ins living in glass hives shouldn't throw a... Actually, if we lived in a glass hive, way too much light would come in for Karkat's brutal photosensitivity issues, so we'd probably cover all the walls with, lots of curtains and sheets of thick fabric, so I guess we could throw stones. It's kind of like small stones that the fabric could easily absorb the momentum. Also, me and Karkat would probably be too lazy to throw the stones that hard anyway, so I think actually this scenario is pretty workable here. It provides for a certain threshold of allowable minimum hypocrisy. Dave, this sucks. No, it doesn't. I'm giving thoughtful and critical consideration to a cliche which is long past due. A glass house with wall-to-wall curtains creates what is going to theorize as an incredibly important self-owning buffer. This is a huge breakthrough, and also it's science. You, of all people, should appreciate the work being done here. Oh my gosh, I never thought I'd be thinking of you as my weird nerd friend by the time we were in our 20s. Yeah, well, I never thought you'd be the premier woo girl on the planet. What are you even doing here with us? Don't you usually spend your weekends at least 48-hour interspecies raves or doing Arctic expeditions with Jake or whatever? Those two things are not always mutually exclusive. Ugh. Jade floats over to the couch, shooting her two besties a salacious smile. She taps Karkat on the nose as she passes by. I'm just enjoying my youth. You could be enjoying it too. She retrieves one of her bras from where it's hanging over the back of the couch. She starts changing it right there, doing the mystical sleight of hand girls seem to be born with the knowledge of, where the bra goes off, then on again, without the shirt being removed. Jade doesn't exactly have the best understanding of interpersonal boundaries, having been raised mostly by a dog. But still, it's weird, intimate, and uncomfortably close to a sexual thing to be doing in front of two other people. Dave and Karkat share a vaguely mortified look. Jade sort of lives here, but she doesn't that sort of live here. But seriously, what do you two even do holed up in here together all the time? Karkat snorts, still pointedly not looking at her. Oh, I'm sorry. Have you not seen Dave's ill-begotten art empire? He's got his opposable digits stuck in so many double-stacked husk loaves that even I don't know what all his pen names. Man, Dave is hussy. I don't know. Okay, so that's what Dave does. What do you do? Jade puts her feet on the floor and pads over so she can sling her arms over the back of the couch and lay her cheek on the cushion. The look she gives Karkat is just shy of devious. Karkat defensively scuttles to the other end of the couch, where he ends up pressed flush against Dave's entire left side. Sit around and play video games all day? Hey, that's not the only thing I do. I've done laundry. Once or twice. Also what humans refer to as groceries. I do the groceries. That's not a figure of speech, man. You don't do the groceries. You go out and buy them, and you don't even actually do that. Dave puts both hands over Karkat's mouth and does a strange stage whisper over his shoulder. He means that he uses the alchemeter in the basement sometimes. Whose side are you on? Oh, and when he's in a bad mood, he'll go yell at trolls on the internet. Not like trolls as in the troll species, I mean. Literal trolls who talk crap online. I don't know, a bunch of them could be actually trolls, I guess, but not strictly. Dave, don't tell her about that. Oh gosh. Someone do a Sims challenge where it's just Dave in the house, and like Dave and Karkat challenge. Sims must not leave the house. One sim must do art. Other sim must troll on the internet. Dave reaches around Karkat's face and gives him a gentle poke in the cheek. He keeps his finger there longer than strictly necessary, smiling the noticeably restrained smile characteristics of Striders. The expression is so warm and blatant that it can't help but draw Jade's attention. She frowns and pushes her glasses up the bridge of her nose, making some quick calculations in her head. They're so obvious, she thinks, and yet here they are, virginal losers who are performative about sitting exactly a foot apart whenever they're in public. It's so pathetic it makes her want to howl at the moon in sorrow. What she's planning isn't seduction, it's a public service. Why not, dude? I think it's cute. He's on all the major political sites, of course, but he spends most of his time going after people who leave abusive comments on my Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff posts. He's got a whole complex network of burner accounts and sock puppets on my homepage set up for every possible scenario. Jeez. It's incredible. He's driven at least 10 people off the site by creating thinly veiled parody accounts of their usernames. Stop talking about this. My exploits are heroic. Go absolutely screw yourself. Shh, Karkat, I'm so proud of you. Couldn't have done it better myself. Well, I mean, I definitely could have, but I have better things to do with my time. Thank you, Dave. That was heartwarming and not even a little bit embarrassing. Consider my honor undeniably defended. Actually, Karkat, it's more like you're the one defending his honor. That's so cute. White knighting for another night. Dave, it's like Karkat's your adorable little house husband. What the hell is a husband? Did this not get brought up when Kanaya became Rose's wife? They're like, Dave unpokes his finger from Karkat's cheek and tries to shimmy some space between them on the couch, but there's nowhere to go. Karkat's sandwiched between him and Jade, who is reaching out to put 2 fingers of her own at the center of his chest. She bounces them a few times, enjoying the way troll skin is just a bit thicker than human skin, taut like the membrane over a poorly maintained drum. A husband? She begins walking her fingers up to the length of Karkat's sternum. Karkat knows dang well what a husband is. He's been force-fed enough bad movies from Dave to pick up any human euphemism you could name. He still plays dumb sometimes, for comedic effect, to irritate his friends, or simply to avoid a topic of conversation altogether. If he'd known it would only fan the flames of discussion in this case, he would have kept his mouth shut. A husband is a little like what you both do already, only with certain benefits. Her fingers reach the hollow of Karkat's throat just in time to catch him swallow. He starts to sweat. What kind of benefits? Don't play dumb, Karkat. Jade, come on, dude. Leave him alone. Jade does not come on. She glides her fingers up under Karkat's chin so that they can rest on his lips, which are a little chapped. Doesn't take much work to pop them open and slide both fingers in. If you're really that clueless, I can show you. Karkat looks like an animal with its leg caught in a trap, eyes flickering, breath getting swallowed, his bottom lip is trembling where Jade is stroking it with her thumb. It would be easy to mistake this reaction for arousal, so it's understandable that Jade is extremely surprised when Karkat snaps his jaw shut and chomps down on her hand. Ow! She flies back, literally spiraling up towards the ceiling so fast that her skirt puffs up and she gets all tangled in clothes for a few seconds. She clutches her wounded hand and glares daggers at Karkat, ears flat along her dark hair. Karkat, what the hell? What the hell? You're seriously asking me what the hell? Jade, you were trying to choke me to death with your weird soft human fingers. What were you trying to do? Reach into my chest and pull out my pump biscuit for a midday snack? Is this because you're half bark beast now? No, I was flirting, you dummy. Oh my gosh, you two are really hopeless. Why don't you even waste my time? That's a good question. Jade is angry, but not enough to leave. Instead, she plops down on the opposite end of the couch and petulantly crosses her arms. Karkat peels himself off Dave and slumps into a dip between the cushions, while settling even more deeply into one of his bitter practice pouts. Dave clears his throat. So apropos to nothing, just a cool segue into a completely different topic, for no reason, economy. Jade and Karkat both stare at him. He makes a casual motion with his hands, a smooth wrist swivel, like he's at a turntable scratching one song into the next. That's the effect he's going for, at least. Did you guys hear that Jane was gonna run for high office? No way. Oh, wow. You mean, yep, the presidency of Earthsea. I mean, she's been positioning her megacorp in the stocks in a way that sure looks super suspicious the last year or so I'd wondered about it, but I didn't think she'd actually do it. Nah, she was totally gonna pull the trigger on it after all these years, but decided against it at the last minute for some reason. Thank goodness, that would have been a complete disaster. I know, right? It's what I said when Roxy told me, especially for the economy. Really? The economy? That's what you think is bad about it? Oh yeah, and the troll thing is bad too, I guess? Okay, let me get this straight. Your priorities are number 1, the economy, which, let me remind you, is built entirely on infinite fake money that we can make as much of as we want. Number 2, the potential genocide of my people. Okay, wow. Let's, slow our roll here. Let's slow any roll that makes me seem more xenophobic than I am, okay? Whatever you say, Dave, not xenophobic Strider. That's good. Let's keep using that phrase, not xenophobic, in sentences that contain my name. Sure, man. That doesn't sound like something a xenophobe would say at all. Look, I'm not the bad guy here. Jane is, or was, until she decided not to run for president. Let's all just thank whatever Christ was responsible for making whatever decision resulted in her deciding not to do that. What? Don't change the subject, xenophobe. No, look, I'll be the first to say that Jane is xenophobic as heck. I'm not, at all, but she is. Okay, dude, but I don't think she'd go as far as to commit genocide. That's really exaggerating her faults. We'd have to get pretty far away from the people we were when we started all this for that to be a viable outcome. Well, I hope she gets a better hobby. There are a lot of less ominous things she could do with her time. What, screwing her way through half the population of Earthsea? Jade pinches his ear and twists it hard, smiling pleasantly. Get screwed, Karkat. Ooh. 6. We're on chapter 6 now. I think I can get one more chapter in before I have to start really focusing on getting myself some lunch and doing laundry and all that other stuff. No one's answering the door to Jake's mansion, so Jane lets herself in. There's almost no crime on Earthsea, so almost no one locks their door. In fact, most doors do not have locks, which has been terribly unfair to the struggling locksmith industry. Once, at John's 18th birthday, Dave Strider engaged Jane in a shockingly aggressive debate about the economy, which he accused her of supporting neoliberal corporate warfare. Her pointing out his problem, which was, well, such a baffling incident that Jane is still thinking about it as an absolutely random interval 5 years later. She has an honorary business degree from almost every university on the planet. Dave hasn't even finished middle school. What does he know about the effective and ethical rigors of corporate bailouts? What Jane thinks with a heavy sigh, now that she's not running for president, doesn't really matter. Jake? Jane feels rather like a princess in an animated film with the way her voice echoes up 3 flights of circular staircase. The mansion is dark and cramped, tall, with narrow halls, Gothic arches, rooms stuffed in all corners with kitschy junk. Jake has a taste for velvet paintings and faux antique candelabras, which mesh less harmoniously with the backdrop of paisley wallpaper. Blue light filters in from the stained glass windows on the top floor of the foyer, where depictions of cerulean sirens lounge against surprisingly tasteful modernist backdrops. Jane calls his name again, lifting her skirt so she can climb the stairs one step at a time. From the second floor, she hears a sudden and awful noise. Boots scrabbling against wood, glass shattering, hard objects hitting the wall, the unmistakable roar of a rifle firing. She sprints the rest of the staircase, runs down the hall. Clack, 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 in her expensive but understated kitten heels. Jake! Jake! Where are you? The big oak door at the end of the hallway swings open, spilling orange lamplight into the darkness. Jake steps out, looking ruffled but handsome in corduroy shorts and a dress shirt buttoned up to the mid-sternum. There's a smudge of gunpowder on his cheek. His whole face lights up when he sees Jane. Oh, Jane, how unexpected! Are you all right? What? Of course, why wouldn't I be? I heard a horrible noise. What was all the racket? Oh, this? Jane grins and holds up his rifle, which is still smoking from the muzzle. Just a little morning target practice. He kicks the door all the way open behind him to show what's up. A circular sitting room festooned with Christmas lights and paper targets, all of which look as if they've been hit many times with bullets. There's a BattleBot hanging out by the fireplace at the back, holding an armful of bottles and surrounded by a sea of broken glass. You do this inside the house? He looks at her as if she's the stupid one. Well, of course, Jane. Where else would I do it? Bringing this operation outside would only startle the neighbors. Jane mouths Jane's mouth opens and then hangs there for a moment as she decides whether or not this particular conversation on household property is worth having. Sometimes Jake simply cannot be blamed for the foolish things he does. After all, he literally grew up in the woods. Instead, she enters the room and takes a seat in one of the ostentatiously cushioned Brigadier chairs, careful to step around the puddles of cracked glass. I must ask, Jane, it seems that you're rather frazzled. Are you sure you aren't the one who's all right? Jane rests her temple on her palm. Jake grabs another of his ridiculous fake Victorian chairs by the back and swivels it around so that he's sitting across from her. Have you talked to Dirk lately? Not exactly. I would say that I have been talked to by Dirk, but the communique has certainly not been two-sided. Ah, yes, it seems that we're in the same boat then. I haven't heard from him. I stopped by his workshop, but it was locked. If he was in there, he wouldn't come out. Dirk was the one person on Earth's sea who took the state of the locksmith industry with seriousness it deserved. Jake scoffs and flops a hand. Both actions are dismissive. I don't see what all the ruckus about. Our good old chum Dirk fancies himself a dark and tortured soul. Cutting us off is not entirely out of his wheelhouse. Yes, but not like this. It's been years since he's done a full blackout on us. Oh, I'm terribly worried. You worry far too much, Jane. Life has become so peaceful on this new planet of ours that I suppose Dirk has merely tired of this idyllic life. It has either driven him permanently or temporarily insane. That's my theory, at least. Maybe it's tummy rot, but I have faith that Dirk will be back. After all, where is he going to go? You seem rather cavalier about all this, like even more cavalier than you usually are. Jake laughs, all uneven, and runs a hand through his attractively tousled hair. I must admit, I am rather half rats at the moment. You're what? Sorry, that was a pretty obtuse way of putting it, wasn't it? What I mean to say is, I've been powdering my hair quite a bit today. He makes a motion like knocking back a bottle. Jane side-eyes the idling BattleBot, flushed with empty wine bottles, then side-eyes Jake. First thing in the morning? Well, I need the bottles for my target practice, Jane. I couldn't just pour the wine down the drain. That'd be wasteful. Jane frowns and leans forward on her knees so that she can examine Jake more closely. She sees it now, the unspecifically precise movement that comes from overcorrecting drunken body language, the unfocus of the eyes. That was a very detailed thesis he had on Dirk's potential psychology, almost like he had given it a good think. She knew that Jake and Dirk were not officially together, and had not been for some time, but their lives were still inexorably intertwined on basically every level for some reason she did not understand. One might even say codependently. No matter what he said, this had to be affecting him as well. Jane lets out a fluttering breath. You know what, Jake? You're right. It would really be a waste. She pushes out one chair and goes to retrieve an unopened wine bottle sitting over by the fireplace. They're all screwed top because Jake isn't that classy. In fact, he isn't classy at all. His veneer of classiness is about as authentic as an off-brand Halloween mask. Jane had no idea why she can't get him out of her system, even after all these years. She braces herself on the mantel and knocks her head back, taking a long, uninterrupted swing from the bottle. Jeepers, Jane, slow down. Jane keeps gulping. She drinks until she can't stand it, then breaks off, shaking her head and letting out an ungraceful hiss. Golly, that was cheap Merlot. Her vision is already swimming. Spilling a bit of wine on herself, she spins around and stares at the BattleBot. It's got its hand out, waiting for her to hand over the bottle. Could you leave us alone, please? The BattleBot tips his head with her with a click whir and then looks at Jake, who traitorously offers zero backup. Dejectively, the bot shuffles its way out of the room, but not before dropping every single one of the bottles it was holding so that they make as much noise as possible when hitting the floor. It slams the door behind it. Ah, yes, Jane thinks. Scorched earth policy. That robot was indeed programmed by Dirk Strider. Jake is staring at Jane, wide-eyed behind his spectacles. Jane, I must ask. Again. Are you quite all right? Actually, no. I'm quite not. I will ask. You seem really like you've got the morbs. She staggers back to her seat and takes another swig of disgusting wine. I cancelled my presidential bid. What? I was under the impression that you were awfully chuffed about that. I was so incredibly chuffed about it, Jake. But Dirk called me just before his disappearance and told me to cancel everything, and so... Jane puts her face in her hand miserably. I canceled everything. Why, Jane, do you really need Dirk to run for president? I know that he had set himself up as your plenipotentiary... Oh, what? Plenipotentiary... Yes, that. But it seems to me that you have everything you need to win the day without him. Jane looks up at Jake from between her fingers and under her bags. Well, yes, I suppose I could run a successful presidential campaign on my own merits, especially since Dirk and I developed most of our strategy together. But now that I've pulled out, I can't just go back and tell them I changed my mind. That'd be so embarrassing. It would make me look wishy-washy. I can see the headlines now, calling me a terminal flip-flopper. Also, somehow, doesn't seem right without Dirk. Jake pries the wine bottle from her hand gently. He takes a drink from it, less gently. Dirk has that manner about him, does he not? A way about him that makes you feel like whatever you do, as long as it does not involve him, it doesn't count for anything. He sounds a bit bitter. Jane blinks at him. I hadn't thought about it that way, but yes, ever since I talked to him, I felt strange. Her whole body is numb and floaty. Sure, she chugged the wine, but it's strange to have gotten drunk so fast, isn't it? Especially since she spends several nights a month drinking much harder and fancier drinks at investor dinners. Jake passes the bottle back and she takes another drink. Strange how? Strange like you just explained, like nothing I do matters. I should be more upset that I spoiled my chance at running for president, but for some reason I find myself not really caring, and that's what I'm actually so upset about, the fact that I don't care. Instead... When did Jake scoot his chair closer? They're sitting packed so tight now that his bare knees are brushing hers. The night between them is warm and wine-soaked. Jane takes another serious... And it says the air between them. I think I said that. Anyway, Jane takes another serious look at him. His elegant jawline, his dark eyelashes, his handsome nose. It really is unfair that he's so good-looking, while also being so... Jake... But this is nice, she thinks. When was the last time they talked? Really talked. It's been such a long time that she's almost surprised how good he's being to her right now, considering that she walked in on him in peak English disaster mode. Was it always this easy to talk to him? Maybe because of the wine. Maybe because she wants to. Jane reaches out and sets a hand on his thigh. She leans in closer until she can feel his breath on her face. Oh, this is mortifying to admit, but I've been thinking that perhaps I've been doing the wrong thing in my life. Instead of all this business politicking I've been doing, what I'd really like is to settle down and raise a family. Does that sound ridiculous? Why, that doesn't sound ridiculous at all. It's just that I've never heard you express such sentiments before, except, of course, for that time when you were under mind control and had me trussed up in your lair as you pontificated villainously about using me as your breeding stud to create a blood lineage from your incumbent corporate space empire. Oh, you still remember that. Jane, you are one of my most cherished friends. I wouldn't possibly forget a single moment we spent together, no matter how sexually uncomfortable the situation may have been. Jane feels herself turn red. Why did she think this would be so easy? Jake English was kind of a slut, true, but also their relationship was an emotional minefield. She slides her hand down to the cup of his knee, rolls her thumb into the dip of the joint there, and tries to remember the drunken advice on matters of seduction Jade gave her once when she was foolish enough to take a weekend off and go with her in one of Jake's expeditions. She can't for the life of her remember the substance of any of her lessons, though. Jake is still staring at her, drunk and enraptured. She ventures deeper into his personal space. Well, Jake, it doesn't always have to be that way. Putting business first, ignoring the good things in my life, chasing profit. I'm sick of it. I think I could be loving. I could be a good wife for the kind of man who needs a good wife in his life. Like, say, an eligible bachelor with 100 empty rooms in his house and no one to help clean them, who has recently and mysteriously abandoned by his long-term companion, or whatever he was. Someone handsome and lonely who knows me well enough that we need not fear showing each other our less savory sides, such as being drunk at 9 a.m. Oh, Jake, isn't that the dream? Jake slants close, casting a shadow over her face. His eyes are so green, and they're glittering with naked adoration. For her. It's all for her. He nudges a knuckle under her chin and tips her face towards him. Jane. He's so close that Jane thinks he might kiss her. She shuts her eyes and lets his husky wine breath wash over her face. Instead of kissing her, he says, I say this sincerely as one of your oldest and dearest friends. I hope that you have luck finding a charming and bricky bloke who will similarly impregnate you with as much swiftness as possible and be responsible father for your children. There is nothing for you I want more. Jake is Jake. Jane opens her mouth. What was she expecting? But Jake doesn't register her mortification or frustration either. He's just keeps smiling, gazing into her eyes, warm and drunk. Well then. With a deep sigh, Jane shoves Jake off her and stumbles back to where this horrendous tasting wine is stored. She opens a bottle of briny-smelling Moscato, as that's how if it's pronounced that way, and tips it back. This embarrassing encounter isn't going to forget itself. Alright, I'm gonna have to end this for now right here. I'll get back to this in just a little bit for me. Probably another day for you. See you guys next time. Bye!
Hey there. Consider becoming a patron, just like the phenomenal Gerald Thomas and Bleed Red.